This tutorial is how to use the batch scan method in TouchWorks Scan. I'm going to open up the TouchWorks Scan application. If you do not have a password for TouchWorks Scan, you'll want to contact our service desk at extension 9531 to get a password set for you. This is the screen you'll come to when you first get into the TouchWorks Scan application. Today, because we're using the batch scan method, which is good for mail or several documents that pertain to many different patients, not just one patient. In order to get to the batch section of our program, there's an icon on the top bar, Open Batch Basket, and it'll bring us to where we can see all the batches that are currently open for any office at Mercy. The best way to sort this is by acquired date. So if you click acquired date twice, it'll move the arrow so it's pointing down, and all the newest documents will be at the top of the screen. That way when we create a batch right now, our batch will be the first one in the list. So to start a batch, we're going to click the Scan button on the top bar. And this brings up a page where we can name the batch. What you want to do is name the batch with your initials and your group number. You want to use the same naming convention for the default document name. The default document date and access group are not important to us at this point. The configuration name has two settings. One is internal scanner settings, which is black and white by default. Color is, of course, going to give us color if we're scanning in documents that either don't scan well because the background is pink or yellow, or they happen to be a picture or photo that we need to show color when the physician sees it. There's another setting which is called duplex. This setting, if you check this box, will take both sides of each page we scan in this batch and scan them in. So you get the front and back of every page. There's a flatbed setting here which we do not use. If you need it to be duplex, you check duplex. If you don't, you uncheck it, but the flatbed setting is not to be used. So right now we're going to say all our documents are black and white, and we only need the front pages, so we'll leave duplex off. And we're going to hit scan. The scanner will start pulling our documents, and we'll see them show up as they go through, and you can check to be sure it's not grabbing more than one page or a page isn't going in crooked. Once that's done, you get an option to continue scanning or stop scanning. At this point, we've scanned all the pages we wanted in there, so we're going to hit no, but if we did have more pages we wanted in this batch, we could put them in now and hit yes, and this allows us to scan a reasonable number of papers at one time instead of trying to scan a stack of 50 or 60 pages at once. So we're going to hit no, we don't want to continue scanning. And we'll see the batch that we just created pop up to the top of the screen. We know it's ours because it has my initials and the group number, which is what we named it for the batch name and default document name. Now our task is to take these documents and associate them with the correct patient, give it a document name, a date, and an owner of the document. So to get to that point, we want to highlight the batch we just created, and we want to go to Sort to Chart. Our left column here shows us what patients we're going to be associating this particular document with. And the bottom part allows us to search for those patients. Under type, you have a few different ways to search. You have name, MRN, date of birth, other, which is the medical record number for Meditech, not MISIS, phone, and social security number. The barcode and other two options are not valid ways to search for patients. So we're going to use name as our type of search, and I'm going to type in Allscripts Ben. It's partial last name and partial the first name, and hit enter. What this will do is pull up any patients that match what we've just put in there. So this matches Allscripts Ben, and we can move it around so we see the social security number and date of birth. That way we can be sure we're scanning to the correct patient and not the wrong Allscripts Ben. Now we need to select what type of document this is. So we're going to look under the current folder, and there's an ellipsis button to the right hand side of the screen. If we click that ellipsis, it'll show us all the folders for our particular group. So my group is LO14, so I'm going to select now. Most people will not have an option to select the group. The group you work for is automatically going to default. So when you click the ellipsis, you would have seen your LO14 group. Here, we want to select the type of document this is. So we're going to say that this is a bone density scan. And we'll click OK. And we're going to say that this was for February 8th, 2008. Once we put the date in, the system will try and match it with an encounter in Mysis. So on this date, February 8, 2008, this patient had an appointment with Gene Hunley. So it automatically adds Gene Hunley's name as the owner of the physician. It's important that the date and owner be correct. Now if we were to click File Document, this document has just filed into Ben Allscripts chart into the bone density scan folder under radiology with a date of 2/8/2008 and an owner of Gene Hunley. If this happened to be the second page of the bone density scan, we can use our page 2 button, which will allow us to keep those two pages together, and it'll show in the it'll show as one particular document with 2 pages instead of 2 separate documents. Now if this happened to be a different patient, let's choose Allscripts Becky. Now I used the partial of the name again, so we're going to get a lot of options. We want to find Allscripts Becky in here, and we can be sure it's her again because we see the social and date of birth. And this is actually not a bone density scan, it's an x-ray. And the date is actually 2/9. And this patient didn't have any encounter, so you'll notice it says no image encounter and owner unassigned. So what we need to do is put in the correct owner. Now this owner was Dr. Farrow, so we'll just put in the beginning of his last name and click enter. And what that'll do is it'll search the physician dictionary, and whatever matches it'll pull in. There is an ellipsis button here, but this is not the best way to search. If you click this ellipsis, you'll have to scroll through all of the available physicians. So again, the best way to search is to put in the doctor's last name or part of it and click enter, and it'll automatically fill that in. Now we can click File Document, and it'll again file this document to Becky Allscripts now as an x-ray on February 9th with the owner of Dr. Farrow. If we wanted Dr. Farrow to get a task on this, there's a send sign task to owner in TouchWorks. So by clicking this, what would happen when we click File Document is Dr. Farrow would receive a task in his task list that would bring him to this document and ask him to sign it. We're not going to send Dr. Farrow a task right now, but that is how you would do it. So we'll file this document. It'll bring up our next document, and if this happened to be page 2 of the x-ray, again we can click page 2. And we can go on and select different patients. We can use Allscripts Chris. And again, it would be an x-ray. And we can say this is on 1/9/2008, and this time the doctor was Dr. Hungerfer. And we do not want to send him a task. We can file this document. This brings up our batch screen again. If we happen to want to go and sort another batch, most likely you won't. But we're finished with our batch now, so we can click Close. and use our close button and scan. Now we're back to our batch page, and you can click close again and it'll bring you back to our starting point in TouchWorks Scan. So this was how to use the batch scan method in TouchWorks to file mail or several documents for many different patients in TouchWorks.